Did you have a comment? Like Trevor, like,
I can address that, what you said.
For the Fort Johnson. Yeah. You see that somebody else is proposing. Smart idea. And in this case, you know, especially Rudy.
All right. So, we can go ahead and convene the governance committee whenever you are ready.
Thank you, Molly. At this time, I'd like to convene the governance committee of the County of Clinton Industrial Development Agency. All members are present, Mr. Hoover, Mr. Manhattan, and myself. I would like to waive the reading of the notice that was published in the Press Republican on December 13, 2024. We have no presentations. At this time, I'd like to consider draft minutes of our meeting of March 24, 2025. Is there a motion?
Make the motion.
Mr. Hoover,
I'll
second.
second that.
Mr. Manhattan. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on to other business. We have one item to discuss. It is our revision to the UTEP. I know we've been talking about this for several months. And I know council has been working hard to get this to this spot. We did have a public hearing on the UTEP, and we received some very good comments, both of which I believe Mr. Cole, Town of Plattsburgh, and Mr. Facette, local realtor. Good ideas have been incorporated in the revised UTEP.
Did you want me to cover those changes?
Yeah, in fact, still at 30,000 feet.
Gotcha.
If to remind the committee, you know, there's a lot of cleanup, but the biggest change obviously was surrounding housing. And the different sections or different types of housing that we want to consider potentially benefiting in the future. Affordable housing, market rate housing, senior housing, workforce housing. I think we've discussed this at length. I think it's important. Want to talk about, Molly, if I could have you talk about the public hearing.
Yes.
And those comments that are incorporated now.
Yep, so nobody actually showed up to the public hearing itself, but the town of Plattsburgh did enter for the record a letter of support for the housing incentives that we were creating. Additionally, we received a couple of comments from, as Mike indicated, from Neil Facette. He's a local realtor, and had a couple of good suggestions that we were able to incorporate into the UTEP with some flexibility. So the suggestions for your reference, when it comes to our incentives for senior housing, he was a little bit concerned that some of our senior projects currently were having a hard time meeting the threshold of 90%. So he suggested moving that to 80%, which we did incorporate. The other suggestion was that when we talk about workforce and affordable housing and being able to incentivize that based on income, that might be hard for a developer that has never entered that world to start getting people's paychecks and pay stubs and making sure that they're still complying. His concern in doing that was that what happens if they do get a better job? Are we kicking them out? So would it be better to just have the housing be listed at a lower market rate as opposed to monitoring income for some of these projects? We recognize that, a lot of Section 8 housing is familiar with doing that. That's constant income reporting, but those are developers who are very much used to that. We didn't want to place additional burden on the developers creating housing. So Shannon drafted it, and for your review is in there, is that it has an either or. You can either monitor the income, or you can put your housing at a lower market rate based on the guidelines that we set forth. So those were the big changes and feedback that we incorporated that you had not seen previously. Otherwise, it looks pretty much the same as what you saw last time.
So is there any questions, David or John?
No.
If not, I would take a motion to recommend approval of the amended UTEP to the full board.
I'll make that motion.
It's moved by Mr. Manhattan.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Hoover. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, gentlemen. We have no other new business. As such, I will entertain a motion to adjourn by Mr. Hoover, second by Mr. Manhattan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Chairman, we are ready to do the IDA meeting whenever you are.
let's call the County Industrial Development Agency meeting to order. Declare a quorum, waive the reading of the notice of the meeting as well as the minutes, and ask for a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion.
John? Second, Joey? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Questions?
So we have two presentations today, Chairman. The first is going to be from our friends at AES who spoke to us last time about their Clinton project. Today, they have made application on Altona and Ellenberg project. I will remind everybody that you won't be voting on these projects today. This is just to hear about the project. They assured us they'll be brief because it's very similar to what the other projects are. And once that's done, then we can start moving the process forward to have a public hearing and I'll let them have the floor.
Thank you, Molly. Hi, folks. Good to see you again this month. And I appreciate, Molly, you're getting two on today.
Yeah.
This will get all the Clinton County projects in your process at the same time, so I'm hoping it'll be more efficient for everybody. I think in the interest of time, because I know you got a big agenda today, I just want to let you know a few things. You should be aware of the ORES, Office of Renewable Energy Siting submission dates. All these projects are all permitted in Albany by this office. The Clinton Wind Project application went into them already on March 14th. Altona went in actually a little before that on March 7th. Ellenberg will be going in next month. And just a little kind of an FYI here. Once an application goes into ORES, they have 60 days to come back to us and say, it's fine the way it is, we accept it, or here are the deficiencies. And trust me, there are always deficiencies. So they have 60 days to do that. When we get their list of deficiencies, we have 90 days to respond. And we try to do it shorter than that, but if you let these timelines always go the limit, it can really protract the process. So this back and forth does occur. Once they deem our applications complete, by statute, they have up to 1 year to either approve it or reject it. I'll give them some credit. I think they've been running shorter timelines than that. So, because this is all leading up to, we get asked all the time, when are these projects going to be built? And right now, in order to build them, you have to have three things. You have to have an offtake agreement to buy the power, which we have with NYSERDA. You have to have interconnection, which we have because these things are already running. But the other thing you need is a permit. So that's everything at this point. We have to add on a couple of construction seasons once we have that permit. So our target for these projects to achieve commercial operation is the fall of 2028. Could slip, if we get lucky, it could be sooner. But I just wanted to give you an idea of timing. And with that, I'm just gonna ask Mate to go over the details of these and we'll be out of your hair.
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you.
I'll mention, I passed out two packets, one for the Ellenberg Wind Project, and one for the Altona Wind Project. There's a handy graphic, I believe it's on page, the one right there, Molly, that you're looking at.
This one?
Yeah, that goes through kind of like high level, the project timeline that Eric just talked about. Yeah, on the second page of the Ellenberg packet. But like Eric mentioned, we'll be brief, because at this point, the board understands the repower process. So I'd just like to quickly talk about both of these wind parks, and we can answer any questions. So the Ellenberg Wind Park is a 91 megawatt contracted wind repower. We have cited up to 25 turbines across the park. Now, only 21 of these are actually in the county of Clinton. We have 4 cited in the town of Belmont, which is Franklin County. And then over here on the left side, the Altona project, it's located in between here and Chateauguay. We have cited up to 25 turbines as well, and the Altona project is contracted for up to 107.5 megawatts of power on a 20-year NYSERDA contract. Both these projects, as Eric mentioned, have offtake awards. So we have a customer sell the energy for the 20-year life of the repower. And kind of same as we talked about for Clinton, we are decommissioning all of the existing turbines. So in Allenburg, we have 54 existing turbines. All 54 of those will be decommissioned and sited with up to 25 turbines. And then Altona, we currently have 65 existing turbines. Those will be decommissioned with those up to 25 new towers. And the goal of this, like we discussed, is to reuse as much of the existing infrastructure as possible. So that includes a lot of the existing access roads. When you kind of take a deeper look at these maps, you can see that a majority of these turbines are sited off of or near existing access roads. And then in terms of specifics surrounding collection, we're hoping to reuse as much of the existing overhead collection as we can and reroute the underground collection for the new tower locations. And then I guess in terms of development timeline, these projects are on really similar schedules to the Clinton project. Eric already talked about the permit submissions, and we've already wrapped up the majority of the seasonal fieldwork that's required to go into those permit applications. So in the next couple of months, our largest effort is going through and doing our geotechnical investigations. So boring at each of these turbine locations and determining that they are indeed suitable locations for turbine foundations. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm happy to, I'll also just mention that in the next, I guess this summer, we're looking at selecting a turbine manufacturer of 3 we discussed in our last meeting here. And yeah, construction timeline, we're hoping to start construction in 2026 pending this permit process, and then takes about 2 years, 2 seasons of construction in order to reach what we call commercial operations date for when the new turbines are spinning. Any questions?
Eric, I'm not gonna grill you this time, because you answered my questions perfectly at the last meeting. I just want to confirm, same answers to those same questions regarding no negotiation on a host community agreement until we start talking, pilot.
Absolutely correct.
And secondly, a road use agreement will be in play for, county roadways as well. Those that cross county roadways.
Yes.
Molly answered my, Maitland answered my decommissioning question. One question for Molly is, will the public hearings for both of these projects be on the same date?
I think we would have to hold them in their respective municipalities.
Oh, okay.
So,
We should.
so no, answer would be no.
Good. You guys, I don't know if somebody gave you a briefing, but you had you guys answered my questions very well, so I can't grill you. Thank you very much.
They were worried.
Great. Any other questions? And to all of our guests that are here today, please feel free to take lunch. I know you guys probably were heading out. Feel free to grab some and take with you.
Thank you.
So, All right, well, thanks, guys.
Good to see you all.
Likewise, we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
And we do have, just so everybody knows, the approving resolution for the first public hearing on Clinton on the agenda further down.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Chris, good to see you. I'll tell Bob.
Yes, please.
All right, so next up, we have just transition. Town of Plattsburgh here, representative from, it's Labella, right?
Yeah.
Bella?
Did we have?
I have the PowerPoint right here for you.
Great, thank you. Maybe we'll stand here, then I won't stand in front of them. Hi, everybody. Molly, thanks for having us here today. Thanks to the board for making some time for us. I didn't know, renewable energy would be the, thing, but I guess we're gonna add on to that. I'm Trevor Cole, Director of Planning and Community Development for the town of Plattsburgh. And I'm joined by Jamie Kukoski with Labella, who is our consultant on our Just Transition plan that we're working on. For folks who don't know, Just Transition is a program through NYSERDA. They reached out to us about 3 years ago in an effort to further New York State's initiative of going 100% renewable by 2040. They recognize that in the event that they do achieve that goal, we'll see if that occurs, that could result in throughout the state, energy generation facilities that use fossil fuels may over time be decommissioned. So they reached out to communities all around New York State who host facilities that create electricity with fossil fuels. Town of Plattsburgh has one, the Southern Seaboard, aka Saranac Power Partners facility. And they offered to work with us to generate a plan for free. Free is always like every town's favorite word. And we've worked with them a lot in the past, so we said, sure, we'll work with you on development of that plan for our community. So that program, its main goal is to look at facilities and envision if they were to shutter, not there's any plans for ours too. But if that were to happen, what do you do with those sites? They're really unique, they're often large, they could be industrial. And so it's sort of a what if scenario and how can each community get the best use out of those facilities. So we gather, like all of our other planning processes, a board that sits on that committee. Ours included folks in the city, their planner, Alicia Bartlett, Courtney Messenheimer. We also have Molly Ryan, Tom Wood, who is town councilor, and myself are the primary folks on that committee. And we work with NYSERDA and our consultants to work through the plan. Oh, sure, yeah, you can go to the third slide now.
Sorry.
That's
Just
fine.
tell me when.
Yep. And as I mentioned, the whole idea here was to study the existing facility, imagine a future if it weren't there. And us attending this meeting today is part of an important step. I'd say we're about 80% of the way through this process, but it's also public participation, and since this meeting is open to the public and includes the primary stakeholder, which is the property owner, the underlying property, and you folks. So really important that we update you along the way on what the plan is showing us so far. So that's just my intro. I introduce Jamie to talk a little bit more about the particulars.
Yeah, so we can advance, I think, to the next slide and probably the one after even. Yeah. So in terms of what this process has involved, like Trevor said, we're about 80% of the way through. So we've taken a number of steps, which were really about information gathering, kind of getting the context for the site established. And so there is a website for this project. If anyone is interested in seeing any of the reports that I'm referred to, it's plattsburghjt.squarespace.com, and that's where you'll find all of the reports and things that I mentioned here. So the first thing we did was an existing conditions report, and that's where we looked at the history, what structures were on the site. We did a limited assessment of environmental conditions, looked at land use zoning, and then we also took a dive into creating a community profile that looked at, really the location and transportation systems in place, demographics of the town and city, and status of housing. And that kind of gave us a framework. And then we moved on and did a market analysis, and that's the second report. And that includes the town and the county. So a lot of looking at which sectors are healthy and growing, trying to get a beat on what might be some opportunities for this site, what might make the most sense. And then the last report that we did was an infrastructure assessment, and that is specific to the site, where we looked at just how the site is serviced, and it's pretty standard, you know, it's water, wastewater, electric, gas, and then there's the proximity to the railroad in terms of other infrastructure that's present. And then our next step was to reach out to stakeholders, and as you might guess, some of the key stakeholders were Saranac Power Partners, NYSEG, and then Georgia Pacific. If you're not aware, the site, while it does generate power that feeds the grid, it also generates, it's involved in generating steam for Georgia Pacific and Pactiv. So there's an interconnectedness to those adjacent manufacturing operations. So we can go to the next slide. So now we're at the site reuse concepts, is the step that we're at. So what we did was we looked at we took the information that was gathered, kind of analyzed it. Labella did an analysis with Trevor and identified a number of site constraints. And that includes, you know, like if you look at this site, to the right is the railroad tracks. North, that green area represents the land conservation zoning for the town of Plattsburgh, and that is primarily, it's zoned that way because it's primarily wetland. And then you also have to the south, the city, you know, it's the city-town border. So in terms of like, who are the decision makers, what are the processes, and that's a residential neighborhood right there. And then the other thing that we looked at was that blue area is all zone industrial. So you've got a site that's tucked in between land use, you know, land conservation, industrial, and then a neighborhood to the south. And so there's no real, so there's a lot of constraints there in terms of what might make sense, even though the market study said there's, you know, a number of things that could happen that would be in demand. Would it make sense to be at this site? So when we go to the next slide, we considered all of these things, and really the main driver for potential reuse at this site is the location where it is. There's no visibility from a main, a main travel corridor. There's a single point of access. It's interconnected to the adjacent industrial uses, and the area all around it is zoned industrial. So there's really limited expansion opportunities. It's not a huge site. It's a good size site for what's happening there now, but in terms of reuse, you know, expansion would be limited unless it was absorbed by one of the adjacent industrial uses. So we narrowed it down to 5 reuse options, and then presented those options to the steering committee that Trevor mentioned. And the steering committee selected 3 uses moving forward. So in the next slides, I'll identify what those were. So the first, out of the 5 options, 1 was warehousing and 1 was retail. And we decided that neither of those necessarily make sense to do alone. And so we looked at a hybrid retail operation is what we're exploring, where, so picture like it's the retail aspect is you're going there for something, but a majority of the site is for storing that. So kind of like serving contractors, whether that's paint, lumber, electrical supplies, something along those lines. So there is a retail component, but it's very purpose driven. People are only for going there. They're not deciding to go because they saw it driving by.
Think FW Web stuff, home industrial, yeah.
And so this is just the general site plan layout of what that might look like. And then the next slide shows our, you know, manufacturing, and this, you know, ideally this probably makes the most sense. And so we're trying to look at it, whether there's an option to have rail integrated. The one tricky thing about this is to the north of it. So along the railroad, adjacent to the railroad tracks, there is an access road to the north that is a NYSEG. It's NYSEG facilities to the north. So that access has to be maintained. So while the rail option is being looked at, we're not diving into whether it's feasible or not. We're just acknowledging that that access would have to be maintained if there was any kind of rail component added to the manufacturing. And then the third option that we looked at, so this is truck repair, but for large trucks. So for you know, freight. And so we looked at this one because it would be a different, the other buildings are fairly similar looking. This will be a little bit different. And the reason it's shaped the way it is that the indoor space is limited, but it allows for pull through So for each bay where the truck would be able to pull in and pull out, there would be no backing out. So more of the site is dedicated to parking and maneuvering for the trucks. So the building smaller, more maneuvering space. So those are the three options that we looked at. And then for the next slide, I'll just summarize with what our next steps are. So we are now in the process, our landscape architecture group is refining those site reuse concepts. So the site plans will be refined and we'll advance at least one concept to a more detailed site plan and or some form of elevation or coloring rendering based on the feedback that we get from the town and steering committee. And then this, like, as Trevor mentioned, this is one of our public input, opportunities. And then the second one, once we have the final set of concept plans, we'll share that. Trevor will create an email list, share it with the group of stakeholders to get final feedback. You'll all be included on that outreach, if anyone has final input. And then the other thing that we're, is the revitalization strategy. This is something that's built into NYSERDA's program where the town has the opportunity to dedicate some resources to a non-site specific strategy. And we have 3 that we're considering and the town will inform us which one to proceed with. Labella will deliver a deliverable depending on what it is. Yeah, and that's all we had.
One thing I wanted to add quickly is, one of our goals in coming today was also to hear from you, obviously, as primary stakeholder. The goal with this plan, once it's complete, it's not necessarily going to inform any changes to the site or anything like that, but you will own it, you will have it and be provided copies. One of the goals is that should you ever need to market the property in the future, it'd be great to have some ideas. So this is just informative plan of possibilities for the site. One more tool for everybody to have. And if there's no changes to the site for 20 years, there's no changes.
Yeah, so that's my question, Trevor. There's no, we've not heard that something has gotta go away. This is pre-planning essentially.
This is just, it's just being a step ahead. That's it. It's looking at a site that given the initiatives of New York State and their overall goals as it relates to these facilities statewide, they rolled out this program as a way to look at these facilities. So Plattsburgh's not.
How was, I'm assuming you had to have conversations with the current operator to do some of this
Yep,
work?
we reached out to them. We needed information from them. We talked to John Godek about, because some of the economic and market analysis and existing conditions, number of employees, how many people work there. We wanted to know how much energy, because one of the things was also should it not operate anymore. Well, that's also a loss of energy. We want to know how to replace too, because that in of itself is another loss, right? So what would that look like? Probably gonna be replaced by wind turbines.
So what was their initial reaction when you tried to explain that you were looking to come up with options to redevelop their site?
They go away.
Deep skepticism, reasonably, and what we really had to let them know is this isn't hi, we're the government, we're here to help. This is an opportunity provided to the town. We're gonna utilize these funds because we're stewards of the land in the town. We're gonna end up looking at these sites under site plan review or, zoning reviews in the future. So if there's an opportunity to look ahead and partner with the county and the IDA to just preemptively have a piece of information, helps us. Never hurts to plan. We try to be forward thinking and take those opportunities, but. And once we explain that, and I think they said, thank you, we'll be happy to get the report when it's done. We'll decline participation during the process, but we'll be happy to look at the report when it's done. Thank you.
The biggest impact would be on Jordan.
Correct. I mean, we've been dealing with payment in lieu of taxes with this facility for many, many, many years. And, at the end of the day, it comes down to the ancillary benefit that the facility provides.
That was one of our primary concerns and why we brought in the city as well, because it's so unique in so many ways. Once you dig into the intricacies of that facility being located in the town, what provides a service to, I can't think of anywhere else, at least in the town and the city, where that occurs in that way, where a utility is provided across municipal corporate boundaries to another one. So it's really unique in that it's just good for us to look at, all their policy things aside, you know, for Georgia Pacific alone, it'd be, so we brought them in and they've had some conversations with us. They've kind of been clear-eyed about it. And, actually, Darren, you want to let them know what they had said about?
Yeah, their main point was there is no alternative to steam for the operation of their plant. They would not be interested in purchasing the power plant. If Saranac Power decided to go away, it's not something that would be absorbed by Georgia Pacific. They have in other locations, not in New York State, but in other locations, they have sort of like a package plant or some kind of facility that does provide the power needed for the steam generation. But you know, it would be a significant investment of time, energy, and resources for them to create a solution, design a solution specific to Plattsburgh. So it's you know, they would have to do a cost benefit analysis of whether they would do that or not. So it'd be a major decision point for them, should they lose that access to that resource. And also for Pactive as well. So that was kind of the focus of our conversation with Georgia Pacific, and assuring them that the plant wasn't going to at this time.
Yeah, so our interest kind of lied in those other things, which was equally more interesting is how do we pre-plan for a solution to a tricky problem that could arise? You know, there isn't a plan for it. And it uniquely, one thing we learned about facilities like that, they're so incredibly purpose-built, you know, and they actually, in our research, they keep functioning for a very long time. They're kind of built to function for a long time and continue to do what they do, so.
Yeah, that's a good point. So our site plans assume demolition and a completely new building on site, not reuse of the existing building because it's so purpose-built. If somebody doesn't take it over to continue to generate power, doesn't really have an alternative.
I was just wanted to continue on what Mike had said, because I was wondering, I didn't quite understand what the original scope was. So there's a lot of other things that you probably didn't mention, I guess, the gas distribution, transmission distribution system. You mentioned the right of ways out of there for electric distribution. So is that being studied? Could you elaborate a little bit more on those areas? Because you talk about one customer providing steam to, but then you've got couple thousand customers have natural gas distribution out of that site.
Yeah, so that, you
You
know,
know,
that
so
comes
it's
from Canada,
multiple
connects,
towns.
comes from Canada, connects there, so that independently hasn't really been considered. The assumption, and this is just kind of from the conversation with the utility providers too, is that can continue to operate. They have the lease or the ownership of that unit, and they lease to NYSEG for the transmission. Other completely unique issues separate from the site, and NYSERDA didn't really, you know, address that necessarily. What he's getting at is, that company also owns that
Oh,
section of
the natural
transmission
gas.
line. Yeah.
We didn't focus heavily on that. I did have a conversation with NYSEG about the loss of electricity. And they would be looking, you know, if that site went out of commission, they would be looking to increase, they would have to get supply from somewhere else. They wouldn't purchase the site because they only do on the delivery side. They would be looking for, they would need to find a supplier to replace that.
Well, that is a supplier, and it's also, they've changed their classification over the years from when they started. So I guess at this point, there are times where the energy is critical under contingencies, loss of other systems in the area, and that's gonna be the same thing with windmills or whatever the case might be. I was just wondering how deep this study was going to be into looking at those options, because I mean, you can take it out for just base load, but then what do you do in an emergency? Is that a value of somebody, you know, looking at down the road? And I guess is NYSERDA gonna look at it that way too?
Well, they're across the state. I love your point about the natural gas transmission. That's actually something I think I'd like to kind of work in there, is at least to identify that as an item of concern, should that operate or not. That transmission line is. Minor.
Well, it's all federal DOT mandate. I mean,
Yeah.
transmissions and then the distribution is by the franchises that are secured for it. But I just didn't know how far in depth the study went, so you explained it. I appreciate that. So.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
very
for coming,
much.
guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
You too.
All right, we made it through the two presentations. We can move on with the agenda, Chairman.
The treasurer's report.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Okay, we have an action item to approve the treasurer's report. And I'll read the CCIDA report. Force balance sheet. The account balance at 3/31/25 was $99,880.51 in checking, $1,523,504.83 in the sweep account, and $227,215.41 in the savings. The income statement is organized. The organization received $38.59 in interest income on the savings account. The income statement shows the expenses that were approved and paid during the month of March on a cash basis. Invoices received paid in March were Clinton County Treasurer admin fees, $13,000. Bargain. That didn't include you, Mike. Come on, associates, housing study. Housing study, $3,765.95. Credit card payment, meeting expense, Meta, $811.75. Bank charge, sweep fee, $10. Total expenses of $35,540.82. A check to Bory Benner Group for $300 and a check to Burrell Tax and Accounting for $200 were written in February but cleared in March. And that's the end of the report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Mark? May I get a motion to approve the treasurer's report? Joey? Second. Dave?
Thanks, Dave.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries.
We have a committee report up next, so. Sure.
Yes, Chairman. The governance committee of the IDA met earlier this afternoon. All members were present and engaged. The committee's task was to review and possibly recommend the amended UTEP to the full board. We heard from our council and our executive director on the specifics. I believe this body has been fully informed on what those changes will be. After review, the governance committee unanimously recommended approval to the full board.
Thank you. We will have a resolution further down the agenda.
Yes.
Old business.
Yes, so we put this under old business because we've been talking about it a lot. We wanted to kind of address it first, prior to you voting on the resolution for the draft UTEP. And I will note that when Comoin Associates did this study, they had access to the draft so that they can incorporate what those benefits look like, and whether it would make sense to have those when we conduct the housing feasibility study. But without further ado, I will give the floor to Alex and John, who are going to talk to us about the completed housing feasibility study.
Hello. Yes, we're here to talk about housing today. And John, can you hear us okay? My colleague over in Vermont?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you all hear me?
Just fine. So if you
Great.
want-
Molly, let me mention it. It looks like there's some people in the waiting room for Zoom.
Yes, they have to stay there.
Okay.
They're doing marketing proposals, and they're competing against each other, so
All right.
they're gonna be allowed in later and they're aware of that, so they're happily waiting.
All right. I just didn't want, if there was public trying to listen in, I didn't want
No,
anyone to
I've
be
been checking,
excluded.
don't worry.
All right. All right.
All right, so what we've got for you today is a little bit of a high level overview of the housing needs assessment and the financial feasibility analysis. There is a lot of data to dig into and dive into, and what that tells us about the state of housing in Clinton County. Functionally, for understanding how to get shovels in the ground, housing built, right? That UTEP policy is so important, and that is involved in the financial feasibility component of the work that we did. Just to set the stage.
Good thing the governance committee did it in-depth review of that.
It was very, very good.
Thanks, Alex.
Well, yes, we'll see the big impact that that made of some of these potential financial feasibility analyses. Just to set up very high level, the market side of things, because that informed the financial feasibility piece. John, if you can go to the next slide. Two major questions that we're just trying to answer here today. What does the market tell us about the state of housing in Clinton County? How many units are needed and where? Ownership versus rental, because, right, we've got a span. And on the financial feasibility side, bottom line, large gap in the financial feasibility. But let's dig into that a little bit more in terms of what that tells us, what the IDA can do, what their partners do, and how do we advocate for that moving forward. So let's keep us moving here. And John is our housing market expert. So he's going to take us through these next couple of slides. So John, I'll let you dig in here.
Great, thank you, Alex. And let me know if you have trouble hearing me. By presenting, I can't see the room, so I don't have
You're
anything
good.
visible.
We can hear you perfectly.
Great. So as Alex outlined, the engagement with you all with Coyne Associates included two major portions. One is this housing needs analysis, and then the second is the financial feasibility. We do have a lot of material, and I know time is valuable, so I'm going to try to move through this quickly, but then we will entertain questions at the end. Okay, so there's a few big takeaways when we look at some of the underlying elements of the housing market in Clinton County. First thing I mentioned here goes to the underlying demographics. In general, there's been a significant loss of young adults, and at the same time, the baby boomers have been aging into retirement. We also find that about half of all renters are cost burdened. If you're not familiar with that term, that it applies to households where 30% or more of their income goes towards housing. And in particular with seniors, that's 59% share of seniors who are renters, I should say, are cost burden. Not surprising to anyone, the cost of housing is up significantly, and that goes to owners and renters. And finally, through our analysis, we come up with an estimate of demand over the coming 5 years for a need for around 1,100 new units built within the county. There's two major components of that. One is projections of growth in households, and the second is the replacement of older and obsolete units. Okay, so let's go into each of those individually now. As we can see here, this goes from 2010 to 2024. We see, and this is the distribution of population by age cohort. And what we see is a significant decline in the percentage of young adults. It's down 19% over that 15-year time frame. This is likely due to a couple elements. One could be limited job prospects, or it could certainly be due to the unavailability of affordable housing. Likely it's a combination of factors. Second, we see amongst this older cohort a significant increase in the proportion of households of these older ages. Baby boomers, as I say, are aging into retirement. Many of those people could own their homes. They could have paid them off or be coming close to having paid them off. Older people, many of them like to age in place. They may like to, even if they're empty nesters, they might want to stay in their current places. At the same time, some people might be looking to downsize, and that has implications for the housing market and the type of new units to be built. Also, some of those seniors are renters, and this is who I was referring to with the cost burden being financially stressed during as due to some of these cost considerations. Move on. This is a view of what has happened with rental rates and single-family home prices over the last decade. We see that rental rates are up 21%. Single-family homes, though, to purchase are up 56%. And with these rentals, in part, that is due to.
John, are those normal increases that you've seen in other places?
Absolutely. Yes. This is a lot of the things that we see in Clinton County are kind of an echo of what we see nationally and certainly within New York State and upstate New York, with both the increase, a number of elements. Certainly the demographic shift. This is a nationwide phenomenon, and it is happening in Clinton County, right? This is a nationwide trend of the increase of cost of housing, and we see it in Clinton County. In part, there's been low production, and though there has been steady increase in demand. And looking at rentals, vacancies 10 years ago were around 8%. Right now, they're around 4%. Median price homes up dramatically throughout the county, with some of the biggest increases being in Peru, Beekmantown, and Plattsburgh.
No, that's good. I didn't know if we were an outlier or not.
No, certainly, I mean, we've seen bigger numbers for sure, honestly.
And the delta between the 22.5% rental compared to the single family homes,
Yeah.
is that delta similar too?
Yeah. Single family has definitely risen a lot faster than renter. And let me also mention that this is just looking at price, right? When you include the cost of financing, the relatively high interest rates that we've had over the last several years compound the higher prices plus higher interest rates mean that the payments that people make have risen even faster. Is there a question?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I mentioned earlier this notion of cost burden, and some people might be familiar with this. And the idea is that ideally, households are not spending more than 30% of their income on housing. And in those instances where households are spending more than 30% of their income on housing, that's referred to as being cost burden. And the problem with that is that means less money available for other important things such as food, medical care, and transportation. When we look at renters in particular in Clinton County, we see on average 45% of rental households are cost burdened. It is not uncommon to see younger households, people who are just getting settled, spending a fair amount on their cost of housing, who are renters. But what stands out also is amongst the elderly population who are renters, 59% are over that 30% cost of 30% of income going to housing costs. For homeowners, it's much lower level. You can see 17%. And that is quite similar across all age groups. Now we might think, well, 17%, that's certainly encouraging. At the same time, due to the number of households, that still accounts for 3,800 households within the county who are cost burdened with these high levels of cost of housing compared to income. And to put a number on this, 45% of renters, that accounts for 4,200 households within the county. And what that really calls for and points out is the need for housing that is affordable to households with lower incomes. When we look at some more demographic elements, in particular, growth in population, growth in households, we see that over the coming 5 years, we anticipate demand for around 730, 740 new housing units in the county just to account for new household formation. At the same time, due to the some of the aging housing stock, we also anticipate the need for an additional 400 units within the county just to replace aging homes that go out of use. That's a rate that's not uncommon, which is around 1 in 500 units typically goes out of use annually. These are older, uninhabitable places that have come into disrepair, and but you get enough housing stock, and that 1 in 500 in the county, in Clinton County, turns into an additional 400 units. When we add those up, we see a general demand over the coming 5 years for around 1,100 new housing units throughout the county. When we look at that geographically, sure enough, more of it is in the eastern part of the county, in particular East Central, and when I say East Central, that's Plattsburgh, Beekmantown, and Schuyler Falls. You know, just because that's where the housing stock is, that's where the growth is, that's where the bulk is. At the same time, there's a decent there's demand for a fair amount of housing throughout the balance of the county as well. So if we look at the need for 1,100 units over the coming 5 years, well, that works out to around 230 units per year. Is that something that can happen within Clinton County? And we can look at history and see that new housing production in earlier in the century, in the 2000s, was definitely above that level of 230 units. Come late 2000s, there's financial crisis, and there was a significant drop off in residential construction. This is a national phenomenon that is echoed in Clinton County, along with the way that there really wasn't a rebound over the subsequent decade or so. Most recently, we have seen some growth. A couple of years ago, we did surpass, I think, looks up like it was up around 250 units in 2023. But in order to achieve that 1,100 unit figure that I was referencing earlier, that I believe that the county could really use, ideally, construction will be increasing over the next 5 years from what we've seen most recently. You know, there's a couple of pieces. Millennials are entering the housing market, and there's need for units for this aging population, in particular empty nesters who might be interested in moving into downsized units. The highest level of demand is for households for 1 and 2 occupants.
Do you have any information where that spike was at in 2023? What area that it was in and what way?
I don't have that. No, I don't have. I could look into it,
guessing.
but I do not know that offhand.
Yes,
This multifamily, the green is the multifamily. You know, that's probably a couple of 1 or 2 particular projects.
Two projects in the town of Plattsburgh, off of Hoover Street, and you know, behind
We're on the base.
over, was it a base? No, but behind
the ones right
behind Hannaford Plaza.
Oh, but
dental
there's the one
surgery.
over on the base.
And there's one on the base too, yes.
The dental
So,
surgery place there,
Correct.
and the Stewart's.
correct. So,
And John, this data, is this from when the unit is actually permanent or actually comes online? That would impact that.
These should be in place. This is data from HUD, and it is tracking of building permits that are issued. So, you know, these permits were issued. And there can be some lag, right? Certainly on multifamily. Single family, I think those typically come around to start construction within 3 months or so of permit issue. Multifamily, it can be delayed sometimes. But certainly construction should have started on all of these certainly by now, including the multifamily. Certainly the 2024 single family hopefully should be completed or nearing completion. In multifamily, those might not come online until this spring or later, depending on the size of the project.
Any other market questions before we get into financial feasibility? All right, John, why don't you take us through just, again, high level, I want to get to sort of the takeaways for the financial feasibility, but is taking this information, we essentially went through this whole process of identifying a series of properties that could be used for a potential housing development. So all of what we're about to talk about is potential. All of the property owners have been informed and helped us with this process and, know that we went through this exercise and, we'll certainly share all this information with them. So we've got that at their disposal as well. But I do just want to say all of these are potential. However, they are based on all of those market findings because, John, if you go to the next slide, does that have the
Yes.
map? It's a little bit small, but you can see that we wanted to make sure that we had a variety of sites throughout the county, understanding that yes, demand is driven in a certain area, greater Plattsburgh, if you will, but obviously there's other needs across the county, maybe at different styles or types of housing. So we've got the 5 sites here that we looked at. They all have their own customized, tailored market development styles, build out scenarios that were used for this process. John, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah. So in part 2 of the analysis, right, it raises the question, so we need these units. What's the financial situation that of how likely it is to be able to build these, or what is needed to build these? We've gone through this process of identifying, as Alex was saying, a number of locations, and essentially we've put together some financial pro formas as realistic of analysis of potential developments as we could to really see what the implications were. So there's the 5 sites that were identified, and then for the build out scenarios, we have a wide variety. We do 4 multi-family build outs ranging from 120 apartments to down to 30 affordable senior townhouses. There's different rental regimes from market rate to affordable to mixed income. And then there's a 4th financial workup, which raises a separate question. Aside from multifamily and rentals, there's a strong demand for families to be buying a home. But as we know, it's very difficult for people when the prices of existing homes are so high and the price of new construction is very high. It addresses the question, is it possible to produce single family owner properties that are affordable to households with moderate income? So the process here was to, now I'm thinking of the 4 rental scenarios, to specify what the development might look like, to estimate the costs, and based on what we're seeing as prevailing rental rates in the area, look at the kind of revenue streams that would flow from those, and then evaluate if projects are financially viable. And this goes to answer the question, can income from the rents of these developments cover the cost of a development and the finance the borrowing required? Looking at all of those scenarios And I will tell you, we've put together a couple of draft reports that go into a great deal of detail about each of the particular build out scenarios, and those are available for review. But a couple of messages came through very clearly. First of all, the cost of development is very high. You've probably heard about how high building expenses or building materials have gotten, along with cost of labor and how hard it is to find. The high development costs are really limiting the project's potential for profitability. Essentially, it's really hard to make these projects pencil out. And in the end, the income generated is not sufficient to make payments on the construction loans. Over here, as the income from these rental projects come in, once again, the spending, because of the shortfall, does not really justify on its own development of these projects. In order for these to move ahead, a significant amount of gap funding would really be required to make these financially viable and attractive to a developer. And that gap funding is on the order of 1/4 to 1/2 of the total cost of construction. Now, this next element, though, is very important, so I'm just going to read it. The new UTEP policies that are available from the IDA, as we do this financial analysis, really play a significant role in helping to move development projects towards financial feasibility. And there's a couple pieces. One is the state tax exemption and the mortgage recording tax exemption are able to reduce the development costs of a project by about 6%. And second, the property tax exemption significantly improves the cash flow of these projects. And with that increased cash flow, that increases the market valuation of these prospective projects. It increases the amount that could be borrowed by a developer to finance the project, and that directly reduces the amount of gap funding needed for any of these projects. So that's looking at the multifamily side. Remember, I said we did a fifth scenario asking that question, is it possible to produce single-family homes at an affordable rate such that moderate income households could afford them? Some of you might be familiar with this term AMI, area median income. Typically, when we talk about workforce housing, that references households that are around the 120% of AMI. That is, their income is up to 20% above area median income. And that's a value that's determined by HUD. When we look at the income for Clinton County of households at 120% of AMI, we calculate that the maximum affordable price one of these households could afford is around $270,000. Now, that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but the question is it possible to construct a home that is affordable at that rate? Well, we created a scenario as realistic as we could. We identified a property that's currently for sale in Saranac for $350,000, and we specified, what if you built modest homes of 1,200 square feet on this property? You include roadways, wastewater treatment center, or wastewater treatment systems, including the site work, everything including a reasonable profit for the developer. What kind of price could you charge? What's the minimum price you could charge for some of these developments? And what really came through is that as the number of units increased in this type of development, the cost per unit or the price per unit that would still be profitable for a developer decreased dramatically. And what we found is that when we hit 56 units, the price per unit hit this $270,000 target. Okay, now as I say, these are modest homes, but what really is the message is that for the county and for municipalities too, if there really is a desire to provide opportunities for affordable housing, there's a need to really consider greater density and larger scale. Some of the additional pieces that might support this, I just make a couple of comments, possible tax abatements and exemptions. For the multifamily, I was mentioning that the new UTEP policies were highly supportive. In the single family, I did not build in any of those types of tax incentives.
As the board might remember, we're not allowed to do single family homes, so.
Yeah. I don't know if there's things that might be considered or not. I'm just mentioning these are some things that the county or the municipalities could consider. Investing in infrastructure, allowing for fast track permitting. We hear again and again from developers, I'm sure you have too, to the extent that some of that process can be smoothed out, is only helpful.
And I think that'll take us to our last slide then, that, part of what this specifically was a housing needs assessment. So not necessarily the full strategy around what do we do from here, but a couple of major takeaways that John has already touched on. But whether that's working with your private sector employers, we've seen, in New York State and across the country, whether it's healthcare, the major manufacturers, the private sector is starting to get more and more involved in some of these conversations, and already are, but bringing them to the table earlier on where possible. Those public-private partnerships, again, whether it's major employers or, just looking at community-wide for those partners that are going to be at the table. Again, the statewide initiatives, various priorities and components these days around what that entails for the state, whether that's more on the affordable side or the market rate side. Clearly there's a need for that market rate support. We had worked with some of understanding the other countywide planning programs that are going on right now. So whether that's the Brownfield Opportunity Area, the BOA, thinking about how to leverage the work that's going into that to help support additional housing, and then again, reinforcing the IDA's role. The UTEP obviously made a difference in the financial feasibility work that we did. John's doing some work in Long Island right now, which I understand is a very different market, but their IDA is looking at doing some adjustments as well. We work with other communities that have, I think, looked creatively at how they can use their purview to address housing needs. So these would be the major takeaways to leave with. Happy to answer any questions. Molly, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to.
I'll just add, obviously the financing gap is significant still. And I did have a conversation with the governor's office. Actually, I was at chapter 1 with Ali Webanero, and John happened to be there, so he weighed in as well. Just indicating, if they're going to continue to have these aggressive housing goals for communities. In addition, they provide a lot of capital to Section 8 housing, but they're going to have to evaluate these financing gaps and how they spend their money, because if they want this housing to occur, it's going to take some, I think, New York State funding to get it done. So I did provide her with this as a draft. She asked for it. She said she's hearing this obviously across her region. So helpful for them to have this data so that they know what they need to do moving forward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. All right, thanks, John.
You bet. Let me just say that there are a couple of reports, draft versions of reports that we've shared with Molly. We'll be finalizing those, and for any additional background, I think it makes sense to work through her, and we'll be providing those reports to her.
Absolutely. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
all your hard work on this, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Bye, John.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so Chairman, we have a couple resolutions to get through, action items, and then we can, start with the marketing proposals.
Okay, this, first one is we need to accept the minutes from the hearing. I'm gonna get a motion to do that. Make the motion. Dave. I'll second. John, second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. The next resolution is to approve the UTEP. That is resolution 04-25-01. A resolution approving certain amendments to the uniform tax exemption policy of the County of Clinton Industrial Development Agency. Can I get that motion? Joey, second. I'll second. Roll call vote. Dave Hoover,
Yes.
Mike Zerlo.
Yes.
Keith is excused. Mark Letta.
Yes.
John Van Natten.
Yes.
Joey Tremblay.
Yes.
Fred Trainer, yes.
Chairman, I'd just like to thank the governance committee for the fine work on this. It's been a long time coming, but I know. And we're very appreciative of their effort.
We're very appreciative of the work that you put into it.
Thank you.
Yes, and I would also like to thank Shannon particularly because she worked a lot on this, on making those modifications, and it has been a long time coming. We are gonna put out a press release on this. I've already had a couple of media outlets asking about it, so that will go out later today. So thank you, everybody, for that support, because I think it's sorely needed.
I think it'll definitely make us more competitive.
I did mention it to the Clinton County Economic Development Committee at their meeting last week. If we were doing this, I told them they may have remembered this little project called Prime. And how, you know, local developers were upset about not being able to access tax credits that these developers did. And so today we have addressed that concern fully.
Well, let's hope they jump on it.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, the next resolution is resolution number 04-25-02. Resolution authorizing the executive director of the County Industrial Development Agency to hold a public hearing regarding the proposed project to be undertaken for the benefit of Valcourt Utah LLC. Yep, that can. Dave. Second. Joey. Roll call vote, Mike Zerlo.
Yes.
Mark Letta. Yes. Please excuse John Van Natten.
Yes.
Joey Tremblay.
Yes.
Fred Trey and yes, and Dave Hoover.
Yes.
Just so the committee is aware, I did engage MRB Services to conduct the cost benefit analysis on all three of the projects. So we will have those before you actually vote on the approving resolution.
Okay, next resolution is number 04-25-03. A resolution authorizing the execution by the County of Clinton Industrial Development Agency of certain mortgage documents in connection with the Lake Forest Senior Living Center Community Incorporated project.
Do you want me, sorry, Mr. Chair.
You want to just give a brief summary? Yeah.
Yeah, so this relates to a bond transaction that was in, bonds issued by the IDA back in 1999 for the Lake Forest Senior Living Community. Thereafter, the company obtained a loan back in 2018, related to the transaction. In 2020, they got a second loan, and what came to us in this month is a request to refinance those existing loans. So in order to refinance those existing loans, the IDA would be asked to sign a mortgage. Happens all the time. We would look at the mortgage, make sure it has language protecting the IDA. Like we always do the magic words, So that's what this mortgage is at, that's what this resolution rather is asking for authorization to enter that mortgage. Happy to answer any questions.
I will be abstaining from this too.
So the new loan is with Arrow Bank.
It is.
Okay. Roll call vote, Mark Letter,
Yes.
Pete divided excuse, John has abstained. Joey Trumbley.
Yes.
Tran, yes, Dave Woodward,
Yes.
Sorry, folks, we didn't get a first and a second, so
Oh, good call.
So I'll move that.
I'd second that.
I must have.
Yeah.
so you need my hearing aid? Cause I have problems with them. Dave Hoover, yes, Mike Zerler.
Yes.
So now we get to move on to the marketing proposal presentations. So unfortunately, Mike has to leave, so it's gonna be up to this body to decide which proposal we're gonna go with.
Job.
I'm gonna let them give their proposals, and then I'd like just, as we can have some discussion, decide which one we wanna move forward with, because I do wanna get that moving, because it is a process. So, I will go ahead and let them go through them. This is Michelle and Bethany. Michelle and Bethany, who can hear us, we are ready for you guys.
We can. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us today.
Wonderful. Thank you for your patience.
Of course, of course. Give me just a second to pull this up. I have to tell you, I was working away since we were waiting, so I want to close all my other tabs. You're not inundated. Hopefully
So
you're
I'm
me.
sure I don't have to tell you this, Bethany, but it has been a long meeting for these folks, so
Of course.
brevity would be much appreciated.
Yes, I completely understand. All right, so let's get to it. We are Golden Shovel Agency. We are very excited to be here and meeting you today. I'm Bethany Quinn. I am the president, and I am joined by Michelle Shriver from our sales team. And we have been working with Molly on putting this together and coming up with ideas for how we can best market your community and its opportunities. So I will focus on brevity, but if I'm going too fast, slow me down, Molly. Okay.
Will do.
So let's start here. So why Golden Shovel? And this is really important for us to convey today, is we are here having this conversation because all we do is support economic development organizations. So your mission is our mission. Our company was founded 16 years ago for the express purpose of making sure that communities outside of major metropolitan areas had the same access to strategy and communication tools to compete as the major cities that had a lot of capital. So your community size is really where we shine in providing you with support that does produce tangible results. So we have completed over 300 projects for economic development organizations. We are in 41 states, over 5 countries, but the majority of our work is within the United States. We have a 95% client retention rate over these 16 years, and we're very proud of that because we truly do come alongside to partner with the organizations that we work with. We really do become part of the team, and that sets us apart. So we don't give you something and walk away. We meet with you on a monthly basis and provide guidance and hands-on support, but for a fraction of what it costs to actually hire an internal marketing person. All right. In addition, our team are economic development experts. So they have worked at places like the Montana World Trade Association and Houston Partnership and Select USA. So we come with a great deal of expertise in this particular industry. Because of that, our client projects win awards all the time. If you go to IEDC, the majority of the website marketing awards are actually Golden Shovel clients. And this is true across the industry. As I mentioned, our work does help our clients to achieve real tangible results. We can give you massive lists, but here are 4 just highlights. For example, Falls City, Nebraska, with our help, attracted a $5 billion citronic project. This is a rural community that we've been working with over the long term, where initially they were needing to bring in water infrastructure to tell you where they were, and population was dying. And now, over a decade later, they're landing major deals. Again, that speaks to our longevity with people. Another example here is Covington County, Alabama, had absolutely no digital footprint, no marketing, and they were able to attract McDermott Aviation's headquarters to their airport in a rural community. So these are the types of successes that we help our clients to achieve: business attraction, business expansion, workforce attraction, what have you. So again, let's talk about our expertise in economic development. So we are the only company who has developed a CMS for economic development. That means that our website backends are exclusive to the economic development industry. They contain tools that are what you need to communicate with site selectors, business executives, and talent. So you're not going to be able to go anywhere else and find a development company who has all of these tools built in. What does that mean for you? It means faster launch times. It means when somebody goes to your website is going to load faster. And it means that decision makers are going to find the information and tools they need on your website immediately without having to go digging. So that's very important. Some of the features here are listed in this presentation, and I'm sure Molly has shared them with you. But things, for example, that we have built in that others don't are incentive directories, site promotion and real estate tools, demographic tools that are automatically updated through Esri data, things of that nature. We also have map tools that are built for economic development to showcase, for example, the sites that you have available that I know you're eagerly trying to market, and also highlighting your location advantages. These map tools are interactive. There's a couple examples here, but the bottom line is, instead of just having a flat static map, these allow for interaction so people can quickly see some of your highlighted target industries, properties, or whatever other assets that you would like to bring up right away, including linking to key demographic data. So that is a unique feature of what we offer. And speaking of data, as I mentioned, our community profile tools are updated automatically using Esri data. This means that Molly doesn't have to do anything manually, which is hugely advantageous. In addition, our community profile tools are presented in a way that's visually compelling. So you can see here in this screenshot, a physical house right next to the numbers. So people can visually get an idea of what your demographics are. But for those who want to dive deeper into the data, they can just click and get to the spreadsheets very, very easily. So no matter how a site selector or business executive wants to evaluate your community demographics visually or through a spreadsheet, they have access to it at the click of a button. Ultimately, our goal is to make sure that decision makers have what they need in order to consider your community quickly, because we know that if they do not, they will go elsewhere, simply because they're busy, right? So if they have to go digging, then Clinton County is not going to be on the short list, and we want to make sure they don't have to dig, but it's all right there in front of them. Our real estate tools are built for site selection, and they do include a public submission option. If you have local realtors in your community, you want to make sure you're engaging with them so they can add their listings as well. Also, a great aspect of our websites is we have a report maker tool. So if a site selector or a business leader is on your website and they want to be able to share with a colleague available sites, demographic data, maybe some information on incentives or locations, they can just click through all of those pages on the website, add them to a customized report that is generated, saving them time and providing decision makers with the opportunity to collaborate. In addition, our websites come with dynamic video banners to capture attention. This is obviously focused for your community, but it definitely is very engaging. Oh, what happened here? I clicked through, guys, sorry. Can you still see the dynamic video banner page?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Okay. One of the things that I want to really point out today is, like I said, we are a true partner to our clients, our gatekeepers, which is a client manager and also includes a content writer who understands economic development and your target industries and is assigned to your account, and social media specialists. So you get this full marketing support, meeting with you on a regular basis, making recommendations based on industry best practices, and helping you to effectively communicate your story with your target audience. That's a huge asset, a huge benefit, and it provides continuity regardless of what's happening in your community. Because we work long-term, we're able to come in with that historical perspective over time. An additional advantage to this service is that you never have to budget for a website redesign ever again. We offer something that I believe is very unique in the industry, and that's every 4 years, you get a website redesign at no additional cost as our gatekeeper client. So never have to worry about it again. All we do is we work with your executive director or whoever from the board wants to participate, and we will redesign that website at no additional cost. So that is definitely a financial savings for you long term. All right, I also wanted to point out to you that with our service, again, the custom CMS is built for economic developers, which means it's also built to be easy for you guys to access and edit if you choose to. But there's 3 ways that you can have your website updated. One is we'll do it for you. Again, those gatekeeper meetings are designed to talk about things, and we will just handle it. We don't bill you extra for that. It's just all inclusive. So if you want a new page put on the site, no problem. You want banners and images switched out, no problem. Content created, we take care of it for you without nickel and diming you. So your budget is set. You don't have to worry about cost overruns. The other option is you can email change requests to our support portal, or you'll have full access and be trained on our CMS so you can access it and make changes yourself. So we put the options in your hand, and you can decide how involved you would like to be. We also wanted to point out that we know you do have a great working relationship with a current local vendor, and we would be happy to engage with them in the process in regards to the marketing services they're providing to you. We're definitely accustomed to doing that. And in that situation, we treat your marketing vendor as if they're one of the stakeholders involved in the process. So we would be interviewing them like we would be working with your executive director to learn more about the initiatives they're trying to support. And then through the website creation maintenance process, we can support those initiatives, doing things like incorporating all the keywords they're trying to get you to rank for, making sure that landing pages are created if they're doing a specific ad campaign so people land on the right spot, creating forms that support those campaign submissions, things of that nature. So working hand in hand would absolutely not be a problem for us, and it would allow you the benefit of their local expertise and working with the only organization in the industry who's developed a platform specifically for economic developers. So you can get the best of both worlds. We do have some client testimonials and some budget information and client examples here as well. But Molly, I think I did it. I think I was super short and fast, but I want to open it up for questions.
Thank you, Bethany. I think that was great. Questions, folks?
Well presented.
One question for you, Bethany. How involved do you get in the social media piece, or do you not?
So we publish social media on your behalf every month. And there's several ways that we come up with the topics for that. Those are discussed in your gatekeeper meeting as part of your content strategy, which we do create for you as a gatekeeper client.
Great. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that. I know you had said something about some posts per week and things, so I just wanted to clarify.
Question on the, I'm sorry, question on the Esri data. And what have you found the accuracy to be, or have you had any conflicts with it being out of date, from that regard?
So the Esri data is updated annually. As the fact that you asked that question tells me that you do understand that Esri data is as accurate as you hope to get. The same time, Esri data sometimes has flaws, just like any data set. So if it were an issue where you looked at it and you felt the Esri data was not accurate, we would work to try to find a way to update that information. But you know, it is industry best practice usually to use Esri data, and that's why we have incorporated it into our websites.
Do you have, I guess, if you do note some weaknesses, say on the data, is there anything that you do for the client to, you know, maybe before releasing something or whatever, or going over it? Is there anything you can share with us about that?
Yeah, so the gatekeeper would review that with you guys and work to try to make any edits to the data presentation accordingly.
Thank you.
Right.
That's the nice thing about having someone assigned to your account who reviews all that stuff with you on a regular basis. You're not on your own with it.
Any other questions?
No.
All right, Bethany, thank you. We will have a discussion as a board, after we've seen both presentations, and I'll circle back with you by tomorrow and let you know where we're going.
That sounds great. And I encourage you guys to look at some of our examples as well. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I assume you're gonna go over the cost of these
Yes.
after.
Which is, there are at the end, both of them have the costs at the end of their proposals in your book.
Okay.
But yes,
Your percent.
listen, Aaron, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
You can.
How are you?
Hello, hello. So you're up, my friend.
Thank you, thank you. I will go ahead and share my screen, if that's all right. Thank everyone for taking the time. Can you see it all right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Hit allow. We will dive into the presentation. I'm Aaron, and you can see Chris here, Boyer, for Boyer Benner Group. We started in 01. We are celebrating our 12th year together. Really, one of the main things we wanted to touch on today is our focus on economic development. We've been able to work with NamTrans, New York MTL, Adirondack Coast, TDC, AEDC, NCREDC, and Empire State Development. We, over the years, have had ability to partner with these local assets to help focus in on growing the region. Here's a member of the group the members of the group that will be working on the project. Chris founded the company 01. Myself, I call this my Mona Lisa headshot. We have Melissa, who is our project manager and will be working on data analysis. Joe, our social media manager, content writer, editor, video editing, and Christina Boyer, who, well, make sure at the end of the day we all get paid. I think one of the best things about the group that really sets us apart is our ability to our hands-on approach. So both Chris and I are owners of the company, but as far as developing and creating content and strategy, we're hands-on, which that to me is one of the things I'm most proud of the group. We're more of a boutique agency, and economic development is where we're strategically growing our firm. Between that, tourism, and manufacturing, we can really help Clinton County grow to their potential. I wanted to get quickly into a little bit of what we'll dive into. For the sake of time, I'll maybe move through this a little bit quicker than usual. But we're really looking at, okay, what sets Clinton County apart? And as we look through the list, workforce support, instantly it brings me back to the project that we worked with CVS on, CV Tech in particular, where we got to know them intimately and what they bring to the community when we did their rebrand. I feel we can compete with anyone when we partner with Clinton Community College, Plattsburgh State, and CV Tech. Tax incentives. There may be some people in the room that are familiar with what Clinton County can do there. Quality of life, cost of living, accessibility, and proximity to market. Clinton County has all these in spades, and I think what sets Boyer Better Group apart and where Chris and I and the rest of the group can really bring a tremendous amount of value is our intimate knowledge. We do want to conduct stakeholder interviews. We want to get to know where the opportunity is and how do we attract these site selectors? How do we bring the data to them in order to bring Clinton County on the stage that we have the assets to attract companies? Marketing strategy, what makes us unique, what sets us apart, developing a compelling brand story that captures the opportunity of Clinton County, define messaging, website, making sure the website has the ability to show up in search engines, the right keywords, photos, copy, video, all done in-house. Content management system where you'll be able to go in and make changes. We can also make the changes for you. Those are two ways that we could take a look at how we can get that content up to date and be able to bring the data to the site selector that's looking to choose an area. Implementation, marketing, and collateral creation. Promote the brand through strategic marketing. Engage local business, economic development partners, and rollout. Social media, generating that content that tells your story, that connects. We've already had a campaign that we put out. The results, the engagement was incredible. One of the things that we did find in that campaign, and I've said this to Molly, we've had a conversation, the website needs a little bit of love, and I think that's why we're here having this conversation today. I wanted to take a look at some clients that we've worked with and the success, TDC, being able to work with them, build brand, connect, develop an actual naming and branding, videography, campaigns that we've brought to life, search engine optimization. Danny, I want to take a moment, wrote a nice testimonial. Boyer Better Group has been such a critical partner in TDC's external marketing. Starting with our comprehensive rebrand in 2020, the group brought our team and our board through a modernization of our brand and messaging in a way that truly captured our organization. Their ability to take each facet of the organization from industrial buildings to tenant relations to our board of directors and everything in between, creating a cohesive approach to how we share our story, has created a tangible impact on our region and recognizes the work that we do. Some examples from the website, logo, social content that we've helped create and deploy, videos. The Adirondack Coast, I look at tourism as another facet of economic development. We've worked with them for a number of years. Designing, creating, developing content, search engine optimization, being able to attract outside of our borders into Canada to attract the travelers to come down. From Christy Kennedy, for over 17 years, we've partnered with Boyer Better Group, BBG, to develop and grow our tourism marketing initiative, and their expertise has been invaluable every step of the way. BBG's deep knowledge of all facets, marketing, branding, communication has helped us strong recognizable brand that is strategic approach. We have highly effective website that drives traffic from all key markets. Their expertise extends beyond domestic audience. BBG has played a critical role in strengthening our bilingual marketing efforts in Quebec, ensuring that effectively engage our Canadian visitors. Over the years, we have seen a strong occupancy tax collection, increasing traffic to our website, and successfully developing a target streaming campaign to reach a new audience. So for instance, when someone's watching YouTube TV, we can target the right keywords in the right areas in order to show up in front of the right eyeballs. So continuing to use new assets in order to get our message out to the right target audience. Their ability to adapt to emerging markets, trends, and craft data-driven strategies has played a key role in our success. Christy Kennedy, just a few examples of our work. We've also recently created a website for economic development in the town of Plattsburgh to promote the area and to help develop their strategies. Boyer Brennan Group has played a crucial role in launching our We Are Plattsburgh, the town's new digital economic development platform. The final website far exceeded our expectations, showcasing not just functionality, but true representation of the town's brand. Their web content video production provided an engaging, dynamic experience that highlighted our community's potential. The video's filming and editing skills were top-notch, creating a high-quality visual that told Plattsburgh's story in a compelling way. Working with local tight-knit team like Boyer Brennan Group was invaluable. Their deep understanding of the North Country's values and culture gave them a unique ability of crafting a message that resonates with both local residents and global audience. Having a company that truly understands our region and knows how to bridge the gap between our local identity and global stage made all the difference. Their contribution has left a lasting positive impact on our community, and we are grateful for their partnership. Simply put, these will not be the last projects that we work on with them. Michael Cashman, Town Supervisor. Other projects that we wanted to showcase, the Town of Champlain, AEDC, New York MTL, NamTrans. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say, you know, what sets us apart at the end of the day is economic development it's a passion of ours, and we know this region. My only worry is, you know, both Boyer and I are former Cougars. Do not hold that against us. We will work with the entire county to develop growth. We do want to land one up north for our friends and family, and we will. But this is, I'm fortunate to be able to do what I do for a living, and I know the group and what we're capable of, and I'm very bullish on our partnership, our potential partnership to work together to help attract companies to the region. Some of the pricing, which I believe you'll have a copy of this. So
They do. Yep.
Any questions?
No, Aaron, very straightforward, I think. Most appreciated, as always.
Record time for me, Alex.
Joey does have a question.
Hey, Aaron, through the course of the year, if we have to make changes and stuff like that, how would you go about doing that? And what is the fee structure to do that through the course of the year?
So the question, we have the content management system, which basically, Chris, do you want to touch on a little bit of how that works?
Yeah, we build our CMS custom to the job. So for this, we would figure out what you change most often, and you'll easily do it yourself. However, if you do need help, we can do that. If it gets to the point where it's a lot of changing often, we can offer some like support plans, which are pretty modest expense. But if you have time, and it's pretty easy to do, the system we chose is because it was such an easy system to follow and to edit. And there will be a incubation period when you first launch. Often what happens is we think we have everything figured out, and then you decide, hey, you know what, this little piece of the puzzle we want to add in, or we want to change this. Those things will all be included. We understand ideas happen as things go live and you see opportunities, you want to make some changes, we're there for that too.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thanks, guys. So we'll talk as a board and I will circle back with you by tomorrow and let you know what direction we're going in.
That's awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bottom right.
All right, so, I'll let you, I don't know if you want my opinions first, if you guys want to talk real quickly. Obviously Golden Shovel is really good at what they do. My concern, I think from as an executive director standpoint, is that they might be a little bit too big for us. I am just one person, and when they talk about all these different points of who they would work with in the organization, to me, they're designed a bit more for an organization, like when we were with TDC, when you had the IDA, you had the TDC. A lot of other economic development organizations have their chamber underneath them. So to me, what they've done is kind of work with a lot of those organizations that have a lot of things under one roof. I'm a little concerned they might be too big for us. Maybe down the road, that might be something we could evaluate. I just know as you know, with just me, Tony and Dee Dee, you know, I don't know that we could accomplish everything that they're looking for us to accomplish. They are a bit more expensive. That being said, like they are number one in the industry. You know, Employer Banner doesn't specialize in economic development. They do know the region, so they're cheaper. They're
So when you say cheaper, I mean, they're more expensive front. But what I'm looking at,
right. So
Employer Banner will cost us about 20,000 more per year once we get set up.
no, their annual fees would be right, 12.
Well, I'm looking at their annual fee of 16,500, meaning the golden.
Yeah,
group.
yeah.
And I look at Benner's of 24,000, 12,000. These are billed monthly. And then 720, so I come up with
Joe, I think
36,700.
I will clarify. I think the 24,000 I thought was a one-time fee.
Well, the way it's presented, it's not.
Because that involves the market research, the storytelling integration, the social media posts. Now that would be an ongoing cost. But I don't know that, you know, the video shoots and those kinds of things aren't ongoing. So I guess I'll have to get some clarification
I would
on
get
that.
clarification for that because the way I look at it, what I'm seeing
Sorry,
here.
my apologies. I read it as a
That's fine.
one-time fee.
But when I'm looking at this 40,000 compared to 8,000.
Right,
We have an initial cost of about 32,000 more for the golden.
mhm,
We're paying 20,000 more per year. We get about a year and a half break even point. And then after that, we're paying 20,000 more.
right,
And we may think it's worth it. I don't know.
yeah,
And their cost things here.
yeah,
They specifically say website development, 8,000 one-time fee,
yeah, you're right.
right? They
Yeah,
don't say that for the other ones and
Right.
yeah, you're
Golden
right.
Shovels.
So listen, I'm all about
Yeah.
local. But I just want us to understand
Yep.
what the true cost is going to
Yeah,
be
that's
here.
that's a very fair
If we
point.
go
My
with that.
my apologies. I thought it was, you're right, Chris. I didn't read that correctly. I guess.
Now, this is my analysis. If you
I
guys.
guess when I
think the
assumed
numbers different,
content
yeah,
creation,
but-
to me, that was a one-time thing, but I guess it would be ongoing.
Saying build at $2,000.
Yeah, and when you are talking about social media posts per year, that is, I will say their social media is, they do 2 a week. Whereas the other one, I think they said 1 a month. I would tell you from a social media standpoint, that's that's what I'm doing now, and it's not very effective. So,
Oh, no, the more you change,
Yeah.
yeah, I
so,
agree with that.
and from my standpoint, handling the social media and doing everything else that I have to do is very difficult. So outsourcing that to me is critical. If I'm only gonna get once a month from Golden Shovel, that's concerning to me because it doesn't do anything for me.
How did we spec it out in asking for that? I guess I remember us talking about this, setting it
Yep.
up, but I guess what was our original request to both of them to provide?
To provide, let me back up just a second. Golden Shovel approached me first. It was like a cold call, right? And they said, these are all the things that we can do. So being that I also wanted to give the marketing firm that we currently work with an opportunity to take a bid of the project, I said to them, this is what they do, this is what they offer. Can you provide the same? Give me a proposal. So That's kind of where that came from, and it was really based on website redesign, social media, and driving economic site selectors to us. That's the ultimate goal.
I guess my point is, and I don't know this, I'm just asking some questions. So if you have social media being updated once a month versus every, twice a week,
Right.
what benefit is that to us? I know it's change, but sometimes that's also confusing if you get too much. I mean, from things I see on LinkedIn or whatever, it just gets to be too much.
Yeah, valid point, and so is yours with the money. I'm a black and white person. I'd like to see the cost benefit analysis of either one, to be honest with you. I mean, and we can't make a decision here today. You all know, Chris is my wife's cousin, okay? So we're all related to each other.
And
I
we use
don't
that.
gain
Yeah, I
anything
know.
from that, okay? I don't gain anything from that.
No comment.
But I'm also, my concern is, from a reputation in the community, is that continual follow-up.
Yeah.
I don't think that's, we want to know that they're in our court and they're gonna not only respond to things we want, but drive our process. In
Yeah.
other words, they're gonna be there to say, hey, listen, your website looks like crap.
Yeah.
Let's change it. I mean, who designed our website?
We don't even remember.
I don't even know, but the point is, and I've just seen
I think the county-
in other places, you don't get that.
Well,
They
that was-
do it. And it's just, if you're not asking them, you're not getting their,
Well,
expertise, continual expertise, and that's my concern.
And in Golden Shovel, you are, it sounds.
I would just,
Well, they said every 4 years they just redo it, right?
Yeah, well, they have, well, see, that's sort of the point that I was getting at is I didn't know, I sort of got it, that we know the area, you know what you want, and from one of them, and you're getting this. And there's other ones that are taking the Esri data, that's why I mentioned, because Esri data, I mean, everybody takes it, it's like looking at housing Google Maps stuff, it changes, there's some mistakes. But in general, it has the crap out there that you need to analyze. What I was a little concerned about is, and I didn't want to get into a database like what we're
Right.
using, maybe it'd be a question to clarify. I know we talked about getting back with them, see what direction, but I would like to maybe have some clarification,
Okay.
like how often are they updating their data? Maybe they're using Esri data, but it wasn't really offered. They said they sort of customized it, and that's good. But does it get us what we really want when we're starting to attract bigger businesses from outside?
That was for the Golden Shovel folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Molly, listen, in respect to you, you've got to deal with it every day. I want your opinion on what this is gonna be like to drive the process as well.
Yeah.
Again, if there's I'm not saying there wouldn't be legitimate, but if you have a real concern about something that's going to affect the organization, then you need to lay that out there as
Yeah.
part of that.
I think that, yes, I agree 100%. And I think, the Golden Shovel did say there's an opportunity for them to partner with a local agency. So that maybe we explore a little bit more what that cost pricing looks like. Maybe Waybetter does just the social media and the content's all coming from these guys, or, maybe they're the ones doing the Google ads, video,
That's a good idea. I mean, something like that, because I think we have, depending on who we're trying to attract.
Yeah.
That it's gonna depend on how you want.
I was gonna say, you look like you have a thought.
Well, and I think that is the issue. It's the social media piece and it's handling the data. And the data that goes to the customers that we're looking for. And I really like the fact that they had mentioned they have a mapping system and, where Benner is brand new with that.
Yeah.
And I don't think they can offer that to us. So, the social media is one thing that gets us out there and everything else. But boy, the data piece is the most important because we're looking outside to bring in. And and Golden Shovel could do that for us.
Right,
I don't
right.
know where better, how long it would take them to build that
Yeah.
part of their.
Could be saturated.
But I like the marriage part, possibly the marriage.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
One thing I was gonna add, it dovetails off what Trent said, is specifically to Golden Shovel, they have, it's an extra cost, but website lead generation and tracking,
Yeah.
right? Which is what you're talking,
Right.
driving that process, hey, but this was extra cost, but
But they have those
Yeah.
capture pages. That is huge. when they're online, as we all know, you're at the moment. Right? If they fill out that information and whatever, it
Right.
helps.
Well, I remember what Molly said when you just reiterated with the Golden Shovel that, I think they were the one that reached out to us, said you're a little stale with your site, and I can remember sitting here,
Yeah,
you saying,
yeah,
that was
yeah.
profound to me, and I'm saying, well, maybe that's why we're not hitting the right spots, maybe we
Right.
think we're hitting the right spots, but we're not focusing on them, and I think having some strategic targets is worth a look,
Yeah.
I think, but at the partnership of the local, because we are gonna have to survive in the local environment, but as you attract some other
Right.
big players into the area, I don't know whether it'll become a little less of a priority, I
Right.
guess.
So why don't I do this? I've taken, the notes that you guys have given me. I will follow back up with both those organizations, tell them, what our discussions are and concerns on each side. Have them lay out a little bit more for me, the cost of what it would look like for them to work together as opposed to one or the other.
Well, that too, and then
Yeah.
and just firm up if at least my analysis
You're
is
correct. He just texted me back. The 24,000 is an annual fee.
Okay.
What he said was that would be for 1 year. But if you wanted to look at it in the future, we could continue, if you want to continue to develop content, there could be a differentiation in what you're paying for that.
Right, I mean, we can always bring that down, but you
Right.
get less.
Right.
I mean, so, yeah, okay.
So, okay, sounds good. So I will come back to the next meeting with hopefully a little bit more in-depth numbers and cost benefit analysis for you guys, and we can go from there.
Just a question too, when you get this present, I'm sure you probably reached out to your cohorts around the state and so on and so forth. How is Golden Shovel Group received? You said they were top performer, but I mean, what?
I have not talked to my colleagues around the state about it. I kind of looked at their portfolio with the IEDC, which is the International Economic Development Council. I mean, they have some major projects. I actually couldn't find one that was in New York State.
And we could bounce that around.
We could.
EDC conference.
Yeah.
Well, I gave the lawyers. Hot ticket.
And you guys are sponsoring the softball tournament, so
We are?
we are, yeah,
Are you?
we are,
You are.
yes.
Okay, we're sponsoring the.
What do you sponsor? You sponsor the gift, don't
Gift
you?
you get at the beginning. When you register.
What are we getting this year?
Well, we can't afford that.
Top secret.
I think just to drive this a point home, I think the social media is kind of the feel good piece of it. But the hard data and getting it out to the world
Yeah,
is the most important piece.
okay,
The social media just kind of keeps it moving. And, we feel like our wheels are running, but the data is really important.
Good thing you're not in that kind of business.
We can move on with the agenda. I think we just have a couple brief things that I have to go over with you guys. Mike isn't here to give the county update. I'm gonna just bypass that for now because I don't know really what he wanted to highlight and, I didn't have anything of note at the Economic Development Committee meeting that would be important to this committee, so. So that would lead to my executive director's report. So I know we've had a long meeting, so I'm gonna be as quick as I can. But there are a couple things you guys need to know about. So the first is that, the letter of intent that we decided to submit on behalf of NYSEG for the upgrade at the, Kent Falls substation. I think I had mentioned when we passed that resolution that we were probably plan B for that, because we're hoping the Public Service Commission would come out sometime in May, to have that done, and it is looking like that May is not likely. So we're gonna start putting that application forward and pushing that process through. Questions on that? Okay. You know, on my project update that Connecticut Avenue Holdings submitted their quarterly/annual report. They indicated that they created 8 new jobs and a bunch of construction jobs. So, per Shannon's counsel, we filed, the Paris report indicating that we were following back up with the company to get clarification on those numbers. I have followed up with the company.
Is that Murnane Construction?
Correct.
That's adding the jobs?
Correct. I don't know. I do not believe that there are actually any anything being created there. So that's why we followed up with them. We request their answer to the job creation was that They requested information from the tenant and that was the value they gave us. So I've spoken with Chris and Shannon at length about this. It is my understanding that the company that bought Sarix, somebody help me with that name, I can't remember it, whoever bought Sarix
I know.
and moved up.
Yeah.
Whoever moved out, is continuing to pay full rent for that property. It does not appear that the property is being actively marketed for sale. So we have, had conversations with our council. Mike had actually brought up the concern to me today that there are concerns that we have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that the incentives we're providing were going along with the job creation and goals that we had. Now, obviously, we wanted to be sensitive to the fact that it wasn't really their fault that Sarix up and moved. That being said, they also have a responsibility to try and fill that location, and it does not appear that they're taking the best efforts to do that. So if you want to
Can I
elaborate.
just ask a question in that, and again, you all know we have the mortgage on the property. So, but that's aside from this. This is truly just that if the tenant is paying the rent, do you have the right to go out and find another tenant? Okay, I mean, they haven't gone into default. Technically.
Well, I mean, it's a fair point. I guess I'd say when we did the transaction, we would have entered in the uniform agency project together. Okay, that's the first thing. And in that, they say we're gonna have X many jobs created. They haven't created those jobs, technically, that's the default of the project agreement. Okay,
That for sure.
and it's a default letter, there's a default letter you send, they have 30 days to clear, to cure that. But in your question,
We're
I
asking
can't
them to go out
figure
and find a tenant. I'm not sure.
why would what I try, and I don't understand this, why would the company pay Steerex pay their rent, pay their lease? And that's a corporate decision, I'm sure. This is above my pay grade, but yeah. I don't have a great answer on that.
So that would be my only thought.
Yeah.
I think the IDA kind of starting down the default road is just a way for you to do your due diligence of the company giving the public benefits that it promised to give. So even if it ends up that, their lawyer comes back and is like, we can't kick out our tenant because they're still paying rent, we have no way to kick them out. At least you've taken a step to say, under our documents, you've done the incorrect thing, so we're gonna try to pursue something. Just to put on record that the IDA is watchdogging their projects.
I'm fine. That's good.
And they've also not been doing their quarterly reports. We've had to remind them over and over again to do that. So. Kind of a problem child.
Yes. So, so I think our council's gonna look into what the next steps would be, but they're gonna reach out to their council.
Yeah, I mean, rather than.
Yeah.
Declaring it a default, usually there's a kind of a firm letter that comes from IDA council saying. Here's
If you don't do this, you're gonna get
If you don't do this, then here are the ramifications. So I think we should draft that and have you take a look.
Yep. Perfect. Okay, next, long time coming also, but I sat down with Aerobank to talk about, our options as far as accounts. Our CRC account is over the amount that it should be for the FDIC regulation. What's that?
Do you want me to leave?
So they provide us with some great options. We also have that account at Saratoga National. They're proposing that we get rid of, because Saratoga's come under Aero anyway. They suggest getting rid of that account. They're gonna put a new ICS savings account for excess funds for the IDA that will have with both collateral and an opportunity to earn competitive rate of interest. So right now, we're only getting 1.5 interest rate. So they're gonna put it into where we'll get a market interest rate. So we'll end up making more money on our savings account.
But it's sweep account though, right? Is this what we're talking about?
Nope, we have a
It's an
separate,
IC.
but we have a separate savings, right? We have a sweep, then we can move from the sweep into savings to earn interest.
I think it has to
Because
go.
the sweep goes back and forth as we need it.
So
At least that's
technically
right.
it's a checking
Right.
account, okay, and then you have it's an ICS account, so it sweeps into the ICS. And that earns it's an overnight rate, and it gets loaned out wherever. And then every day as checks come in, the money is taken from here to cover those checks. Any excess from the day goes back to the ICS account.
But currently, we have a savings account with Saratoga National.
That's the Saratoga one.
Right. They're proposing that we set up this, we have a checking with the ICS right now. we would set up a savings account for the IDA. And we can move from the sweep into savings manually as we see fit.
We do all this to deal with that DIC problem, right? That's the-
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
CRC, same thing. We have a checking account or have a sweep. And then they're also gonna establish for us a Clinton grant facilitation account. I realize that we never generally have a balance in that account. But the state gets a little prickly when I cut checks from the IDA. Because they're saying the grant facilitation is on this, not the IDA. So they don't like doing that. So this would just allow us the opportunity to put funds in, put funds out as grant funding comes through. Obviously, we haven't done a lot of that, but with the nice big project coming up, it's worth looking at. So that was their suggestions. I just kind of need a verbal from the board that everybody's okay with doing that. John, obviously, can't. Can't vote.
I think it makes sense. So what's the definition of a sweep account? I've never heard that, but you did decide, you know, that it goes in and out daily. That's
Yeah.
the definition.
Yeah.
And it's used. It's been used with large corporations in the past as well, because they expect, there was a time when you couldn't earn interest on a checking account if you were a business, okay? So, but not for profits, we have some customers that deal with the federal government. They want all of their money secure, okay? So that's what it is. It's secure money backed by treasuries, usually. And it just sweeps out back and forth.
But you would go above the $250,000 limit for FDIC by doing this. You're still protected.
And typically, we usually set
Market rate.
some kind of a limit just to cover the transactional part of it, you know, how much actually sweeps out. So, but usually it's, you know,
What, do we get I mean, do we get is there an annual or monthly report that comes out that's generated on the sweep activity, I guess, in summation? Or
you should get that.
is
I
it-
mean,
Well, it shows,
I'm looking at Dee Dee because I don't even know. How to log-
Yeah.
I don't even know how to log on to it.
when I look at it, it's like 6 or 7, a bunch of different banks that the money is in. And
Mhm.
every account is under 250,000.
Okay, so that's swept to different banks. Okay, that's done in a little different situation.
So it secures it that way, is what they're saying.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't have that for my own personal account, so.
Me
it's just
me
one pocket-
either.
one pocket
You're not there yet?
I'm never gonna get there. It's okay. All right, I will move forward with the banking changes, and I know with this board I discussed wanting to increase the ability to earn interest. Keith had been talking about that a lot, and I think this is gonna be a way for us to do that a little bit more. Last two very quick things. The city of Plattsburgh is looking for a letter of support for upgrades at the Melissa Penfield Park and looking for the IDA to submit a letter of support for that. Anybody opposed to that?
What are they asking for us to do, I guess, just to, because
Say the angle they were hoping was for how projects like these add to the quality of life in the area and encourage economic development and economic growth.
What are they doing?
What's the project?
They are helping fund a new fully accessible and inclusive playground at Melissa Penfield Park.
Billy has.
Right.
Fine.
I'm sure we'll get.
I generally run letters of support through the committee, so just
Go Park.
came in this morning, so figured I'd ask.
Alright.
And very lastly, Microbird was selected as a New York silver shovel in the 12 million plus population category. This was from the Area Development Organization. It's a national organization. They wanted to know if we wanted to buy an ad like we did for the last one they were selected for. I forget which magazine that was, but is that something we want to continue doing, or is that something you're just like, we gave them once? Pass.
Well, that would be something that would be our marketing firm would be a good one. Do we hop on stuff like that?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, put it on our website and stuff.
That type of thing, but I don't know.
Spend for another ad.
Yeah, because it's pricey. A full page ad is 6,700.
Yeah. I don't think so.
Okay, we pass.
That's just me. Just one vote.
I just asked. I don't have it.
I'm just
on us. So I think that is it, Chairman. Unless anybody has anything else.
I do have a question
Yes.
on the treasurer's report. We do have an income and an expense for the CCCRC.
Yes.
Do we need to approve that or have a meeting or? something to approve that?
Right here.
You don't usually?
I've usually reported out on it at the same time when it was listed. That's what we did.
Yeah.
So does the resolution approving this cover that?
Yeah, I think so.
That's what we've traditionally done, but maybe,
Okay.
good question, though. Good question.
Okay.
Because they are two different entities, however, we do that.
Okay, any other business?
I think that's enough. Thank you for your patience,
Yeah,
everybody.
may I get a resolution? Mark, Dave, second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, guys.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.